Welcome, I am Sarah. And tonight, you'll improve your English while relaxing with one of Shakespeare's greatest stories. As you listen, you'll naturally hear useful vocabulary, sentence patterns, and beautiful English storytelling. You don't need to study. You don't need to take notes. Simply get comfortable, close your eyes, and allow the language to flow around you as you rest. If you enjoy learning English through stories, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. New sleep learning stories are uploaded regularly to help you build your English naturally and effortlessly. Now, dim the lights, relax, and let Shakespeare guide you into a peaceful night of learning. Let's begin.
Romeo and Juliet. Long ago, in the beautiful Italian city of Verona, two wealthy and powerful families lived in constant hatred of one another. These families were the Montagues and the Capulets. No one could remember exactly how their feud had begun, but the bitterness had lasted for generations. Their servants fought in the streets, their relatives exchanged insults whenever they met, and the entire city suffered because of their endless conflict. Among the Montagues was a young man named Romeo. He was handsome, sensitive, and deeply romantic. At the beginning of the story, Romeo believed himself to be in love with a young woman named Rosalind. However, Rosalind did not return his feelings, and Romeo spent his days wandering sadly through Verona, convinced that he would never be happy. Meanwhile, in the Capulet household lived Juliet, a beautiful 13-year-old girl. Though young, Juliet was intelligent, thoughtful, and obedient to her parents. Her father hoped she would soon marry a nobleman named Paris, who was wealthy, respected, and eager to win her hand. One evening, Lord Capulet organized a grand masquerade ball at his mansion. Music filled the halls, servants rushed about carrying food and wine, and guests arrived dressed in magnificent costumes. Romeo's friends persuaded him to attend the celebration, hoping it would distract him from his heartbreak over Rosalind. Because the Montagues were enemies of the Capulets, Romeo entered the party in disguise. The moment Romeo saw Juliet, everything changed. Standing among the guests, illuminated by candlelight, Juliet seemed to him more beautiful than anyone he had ever seen. Instantly, he forgot Rosalind. As Romeo approached her, Juliet was equally captivated. The two spoke for only a few moments, yet they felt an extraordinary connection. Neither knew the other's identity. When Romeo gently kissed Juliet's hand and later shared a kiss with her, both believed they had found true love. Their happiness lasted only minutes. Soon afterward, Romeo discovered that Juliet was a Capulet. At nearly the same moment, Juliet learned that Romeo was a Montague. The realization horrified them. They belonged to families that hated each other. Their love seemed impossible. That night, unable to stay away, Romeo climbed into the Capulet orchard and hid beneath Juliet's balcony. Looking up at her window, he overheard Juliet confessing her love for him. She spoke into the night, wishing Romeo could abandon his family name. When Romeo revealed himself, the two exchanged heartfelt promises. They declared their love and vowed to marry despite the danger. The next day, Romeo visited Friar Lawrence, a wise priest who knew both young people. Though surprised by the sudden romance, the friar agreed to marry them secretly. He hoped that their union might finally bring peace between the Montagues and the Capulets. Later that afternoon, Romeo and Juliet were married in a private ceremony. For a brief moment, It seemed as though happiness was within reach. But tragedy was already approaching. Juliet's cousin Tybalt was one of the fiercest members of the Capulet family. Proud and quick-tempered, he had recognized Romeo at the party and felt deeply insulted by his presence. Determined to defend the family's honor, Tybalt challenged Romeo to a duel. Romeo refused to fight. Now secretly related to Tybalt through his marriage to Juliet, Romeo did not wish to harm him. Tybalt interpreted Romeo's refusal as cowardice. Romeo's loyal friend Mercutio was outraged. Known for his wit and fiery spirit, Mercutio accepted Tybalt's challenge instead. A fierce sword fight broke out in the streets of Verona. As Romeo tried desperately to stop the combat, Tybalt thrust his sword beneath Romeo's arm and fatally wounded Mercutio. Dying, Mercutio cursed both families for their feud. Grief and rage overwhelmed Romeo. Forgetting caution, he challenged Tybalt and fought him in a furious duel. This time Romeo emerged victorious, killing Tybalt. The consequences were immediate. Prince Aeschylus, ruler of Verona, declared that Romeo would be banished from the city. If he ever returned, he would be executed. Romeo was devastated. That night he secretly visited Juliet one final time. The young couple spent a few precious hours together before dawn arrived. As morning approached, Romeo left Verona for the city of Mantua, where he hoped to remain safe until circumstances improved. Juliet was heartbroken, but even worse news soon arrived. Unaware of her secret marriage, Lord Capulet decided Juliet should marry Paris within a few days. Juliet refused. Her parents became furious. They could not understand her resistance and threatened to disown her if she disobeyed. Desperate and frightened, Juliet sought help from Friar Lawrence. The friar devised a risky plan. He gave Juliet a special potion that would place her into a deep sleep resembling death. Her family would believe she had died and place her body in the Capulet tomb. Meanwhile, the friar would send a message to Romeo explaining everything. Romeo could then return secretly, meet Juliet when she awakened, and escape with her. With no better option available, Juliet agreed. The night before her wedding to Paris, she drank the potion. The next morning, her nurse found her lying motionless. The household erupted in grief. The wedding preparations instantly became funeral preparations. Juliet's body was carried to the family tomb. Unfortunately, disaster struck. The friar's message never reached Romeo. Instead, Romeo received terrible news from another source. He was told that Juliet had died and been buried. Romeo was crushed. Believing he had lost the love of his life forever, he purchased a deadly poison and hurried back to Verona. Late that night, Romeo entered the Capulet tomb. Inside, he encountered Paris, who had come to mourn Juliet. A confrontation followed, and Romeo killed Paris in the struggle. Then Romeo approached Juliet's seemingly lifeless body. Even in death, he thought she looked beautiful. Overwhelmed with sorrow, he kissed her one last time. Then he drank the poison. Moments later, Romeo died beside her. Soon afterward, Juliet awoke. The potion had worn off exactly as planned. For a brief instant, she believed everything would be all right. Then she saw Romeo lying beside her. She called his name, but there was no answer. Realizing what had happened, Juliet was overcome with despair. Finding Romeo's dagger, she chose not to live without him. She plunged the blade into her heart and died beside the man she loved. Shortly afterward, the families arrived at the tomb. There they discovered the terrible truth. The deaths of Romeo and Juliet exposed the terrible cost of their hatred. The Montagues and Capulets finally recognized that their feud had destroyed the very people they loved most. Filled with regret, the two families agreed to end their conflict forever. Peace finally came to Verona, but it arrived too late to save Romeo and Juliet, whose love had become one of the most famous and tragic stories ever told. Their tale endures because it reminds us that hatred can destroy generations, while love can inspire courage, sacrifice, and hope, even in the darkest circumstances. Hamlet. Long ago, in the kingdom of Denmark, a great tragedy began with the death of a king. King Hamlet had ruled Denmark wisely and courageously. He was respected by his people and admired by his son, Prince Hamlet, who loved him deeply. When the king suddenly died, the entire kingdom mourned. Prince Hamlet was devastated. Yet before he had even recovered from his grief, something happened that disturbed him even more. His mother, Queen Gertrude, remarried. The new king was not a foreign prince or nobleman from another land. It was Claudius, Hamlet's own uncle and the dead king's brother. The wedding took place only a short time after the funeral. To Hamlet, the marriage felt almost like a betrayal of his father's memory. While the court celebrated, Hamlet remained trapped in sorrow. He withdrew from others and spent much of his time alone, questioning how life could change so quickly. Unknown to the royal family, strange events had begun occurring at Elsinore Castle. Late at night, guards reported seeing a ghost walking along the castle walls. The spirit looked exactly like the dead King Hamlet. The apparition appeared several times, always silent and mysterious. Eventually, the guards told Prince Hamlet. Although frightened, Hamlet agreed to watch for the ghost himself. One cold night, under the moonlight, the ghost appeared again. The figure motioned for Hamlet to follow. Despite warnings from his friends, Hamlet obeyed. The ghost led him to a secluded area and finally spoke. What the spirit revealed changed Hamlet's life forever. The ghost claimed that he was indeed the spirit of Hamlet's father. But he had not died naturally. He had been murdered. According to the ghost, while he slept peacefully in his garden, his brother Claudius had poured poison into his ear. The murder had allowed Claudius to seize both the throne and the queen. The ghost demanded revenge. He ordered Hamlet to punish Claudius for his crime. Hamlet was horrified. If the ghost spoke the truth, his uncle was both a murderer and a thief. Yet Hamlet hesitated. What if the spirit was lying? What if it was an evil force attempting to deceive him? He needed proof. Hamlet swore to remember the ghost's words, but decided he would not act until he was certain. To hide his investigation, he began pretending to be insane. He spoke strangely. He behaved unpredictably. Sometimes he answered simple questions with confusing riddles. Sometimes he laughed at inappropriate moments. The people around him became convinced that he had lost his mind. Among those worried about Hamlet was a young noblewoman named Ophelia. Ophelia loved Hamlet, and Hamlet had once shown great affection for her. However, her father Polonius believed Hamlet's behavior was dangerous. Polonius warned Ophelia to stay away from the prince. As Hamlet continued his act of madness, he treated Ophelia coldly, causing her great pain. Meanwhile, King Claudius grew suspicious. He could sense that Hamlet's strange behavior concealed something. The king ordered spies to watch the prince. Every conversation was observed. Every movement was reported. The atmosphere inside the castle became increasingly tense. One day, a traveling group of actors arrived at Elsinore. Their arrival gave Hamlet an idea. He asked the actors to perform a play that closely resembled the murder described by the ghost. In the play, a king was poisoned while sleeping in a garden, and the murderer seized power afterward. Hamlet planned to watch Claudius during the performance. If Claudius reacted strongly, it might reveal his guilt. The night of the play arrived. The entire royal court gathered to watch. As the actors reenacted the murder, Hamlet watched his uncle carefully. At first, Claudius remained calm. Then the crucial scene appeared. The murderer poured poison into the sleeping king's ear. Suddenly, Claudius jumped from his seat, his face filled with panic. He ordered the performance to stop and stormed out of the hall. To Hamlet, this was all the proof he needed. The ghost had been telling the truth. Claudius was guilty. At last, Hamlet knew who had murdered his father. Yet even now, he delayed. Again and again, he found reasons to wait. He wanted the perfect moment. He wanted certainty. He wanted justice. His inability to act became one of the central struggles of his life. Soon afterward, Hamlet was summoned to speak with his mother. The conversation became heated. Hamlet accused Gertrude of betraying his father. The queen grew frightened. During the argument, Hamlet heard movement behind a curtain. Believing Claudius might be hiding there, Hamlet drew his sword and thrust it through the fabric. A cry rang out. The person behind the curtain was not Claudius. It was Polonius. Hamlet had accidentally killed him. The mistake had terrible consequences. Ophelia was devastated by her father's death. Already heartbroken by Hamlet's rejection, she now descended into grief and madness. She wandered through the castle singing strange songs and speaking in fragments. Soon afterward, she drowned in a river. Whether her death was accidental or intentional remained uncertain. Her brother Laertes returned to Denmark filled with rage. He blamed Hamlet for both his father's death and his sister's tragedy. Claudius saw an opportunity. Together, the king and Laertes devised a deadly plan. They arranged a fencing match between Laertes and Hamlet. Laertes would use a sharpened sword coated with poison. Even a small wound would be fatal. As additional insurance, Claudius prepared a poisoned cup of wine. If the sword failed, the wine would finish the job. The day of the duel arrived. The royal court gathered to watch. At first, the contest appeared friendly. Hamlet scored several points. The king offered him wine, but Hamlet declined. Then disaster struck. During the fight, Laertes wounded Hamlet with the poisoned blade. Moments later, the swords were accidentally exchanged. Hamlet used the poisoned weapon against Laertes and wounded him as well. Now both men were doomed. At the same time, Queen Gertrude unknowingly drank from the poisoned cup prepared by Claudius. Within moments, she collapsed. As she died, she warned Hamlet that the drink had been poisoned. Everything suddenly became clear. Laertes, dying from his own poisoned weapon, confessed the entire conspiracy. He revealed Claudius's treachery. The truth could no longer be hidden. For the first time in the story, Hamlet acted without hesitation. Consumed by fury and justice, he attacked Claudius. He wounded the king with the poisoned sword. Then he forced Claudius to drink the poisoned wine. The murderer who had destroyed so many lives finally received his punishment. Claudius died, but the victory came too late. The poison was already working through Hamlet's body. As his strength faded, he looked upon the devastation around him. His mother was dead. Laertes was dying. Ophelia was gone. His father had been murdered, and now his own life was ending. Before his final breath, Hamlet named Prince Fortinbras of Norway as the rightful ruler of Denmark. Then the prince died. Silence filled the hall. The royal family had been destroyed. The kingdom had paid an enormous price for ambition, betrayal, revenge, and indecision. When Fortinbras arrived and saw the scene, He ordered that Hamlet be honored as a noble prince. The tragedy came to an end. The story of Hamlet endures because it explores questions that people still ask today. How can we know the truth? When should we act? What happens when we delay difficult decisions? And how much damage can revenge cause before justice is finally achieved? In the end, Hamlet succeeded in avenging his father. But by the time the truth emerged, nearly everyone he loved was gone. And so Denmark's greatest prince became the hero of one of the most powerful tragedies ever written. A Midsummer Night's Dream. Long ago in ancient Athens, preparations were underway for a grand celebration. The ruler of the city, Duke Theseus, was about to marry Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons. Their wedding promised to be one of the greatest events Athens had ever seen. As excitement spread through the city, a troubled young woman named Hermia arrived at the duke's court with her father, Aegeus. Aegeus was furious. He wanted Hermia to marry a young man named Demetrius. Demetrius was handsome, wealthy, and approved by her father. There was only one problem. Hermia did not love him. Instead, she loved another young man named Lysander. Lysander loved her just as deeply. The two hoped to marry and spend their lives together. But in Athens, a father possessed considerable authority over his daughter's future. Aegeus demanded that Hermia obey him. When the case was brought before Duke Theseus, the law offered Hermia only terrible choices. She could marry Demetrius. She could live as a nun, or she could face death for disobeying her father. The decision shocked Hermia. That evening, she secretly met with Lysander. Together, they devised a plan. They would escape Athens and flee to the countryside, where they could marry freely. They agreed to meet in the forest beyond the city and travel together under cover of darkness. Unfortunately, Hermia shared the secret with her friend Helena. Helena had once been loved by Demetrius, but now Demetrius ignored her completely and pursued Hermia instead. Helena still loved him desperately. Believing she might win back his affection, Helena revealed Hermia's plan to Demetrius. Immediately, Demetrius rushed into the forest to find Hermia. Helena followed him. Thus, 4 young lovers entered the woods that night. None of them knew they were walking into a world of magic, for this forest was home to fairies. The fairy king, Oberon, ruled there alongside his queen, Titania. Unfortunately, the royal couple were engaged in a bitter argument. They disagreed over the care of a young boy whom both wished to keep. Their conflict disrupted the natural world. The weather became strange. Seasons seemed confused. Flowers bloomed at unusual times. Animals behaved unpredictably. Seeing the disorder their quarrel had caused, Oberon decided to teach Titania a lesson. He summoned his mischievous servant, Puck. Puck was a fairy known for tricks and pranks. He delighted in creating confusion among humans. Oberon instructed Puck to retrieve a magical flower. The flower possessed extraordinary powers. Its juice, when placed upon the eyes of a sleeping person, caused them to fall desperately in love with the first creature they saw upon waking. Oberon intended to use the enchantment on Titania. While Puck searched for the flower, Oberon observed Demetrius rejecting Helena's affection. He felt sympathy for Helena. The fairy king decided to help. He instructed Puck to find the young Athenian man and place the flower's juice upon his eyes while he slept. When Demetrius awoke, he would fall in love with Helena again. The plan seemed simple. Naturally, it went wrong almost immediately. Puck found a sleeping young man dressed like an Athenian. Assuming he had located Demetrius, he applied the magical potion. The sleeping man, however, was not Demetrius. It was Lysander. Soon afterward, Helena stumbled upon the sleeping Lysander. Concerned for his safety, she woke him. The moment Lysander opened his eyes, the spell took effect. Instantly, he became obsessed with Helena. Forgetting Hermia entirely, he declared his love for Helena and began following her through the forest. Helena was bewildered. She assumed Lysander was mocking her. The more passionately he pursued her, the more confused she became. Meanwhile, Oberon discovered Puck's mistake. Annoyed but determined to fix the situation, he personally enchanted Demetrius. When Demetrius awoke, the first person he saw was Helena. Now both young men were hopelessly in love with her. Helena could hardly believe what was happening. Only hours earlier, neither man seemed interested in her. Now both followed her through the forest, proclaiming their devotion. Instead of feeling delighted, Helena became convinced everyone was making fun of her. The situation grew even worse when Hermia arrived. She could not understand why Lysander suddenly rejected her. Helena could not understand why everyone was behaving strangely. The two women began arguing. The two men nearly fought a duel. Chaos spread throughout the forest. Watching from above, Puck found the entire situation hilarious. Oberon was less amused. He ordered Puck to repair the damage before sunrise. While all this confusion unfolded among the humans, Oberon carried out his plan against Titania. As the fairy queen slept, he gently placed the enchanted flower juice upon her eyes. Nearby, a group of craftsmen had entered the forest to rehearse a play they hoped to perform at the Duke's wedding. Among them was a cheerful weaver named Bottom. Bottom was enthusiastic, confident, and completely unaware of his own absurdity. Puck noticed the actors and decided to have some fun. Using fairy magic, he transformed Bottom's head into that of a donkey. When the other craftsmen saw him, they screamed and fled in terror. Bottom remained blissfully unaware of his new appearance. At that moment, Titania awakened. The first creature she saw was Bottom with his donkey head. The enchantment immediately took effect. Titania fell deeply and absurdly in love with him. She declared him beautiful. She praised his voice. She ordered her fairy attendants to care for him. Bottom accepted the attention with remarkable confidence, apparently seeing nothing unusual about becoming the object of a fairy queen's affection. For a time, the enchanted Titania doted upon Bottom while Oberon watched with satisfaction. Eventually, however, Oberon felt pity for her. He had achieved his goal. Titania agreed to settle their dispute. Their quarrel ended. The natural balance of the forest could finally be restored. Oberon removed the enchantment from Titania. When she awoke and saw Bottom clearly, she was horrified. Puck restored Bottom's normal appearance. The bewildered craftsman later convinced himself that the entire experience had been a strange dream. Meanwhile, Puck completed his final task. He used magic to separate the arguing lovers and guide them into sleep. Once they were resting, he removed the enchantment from Lysander while leaving Demetrius enchanted. As dawn approached, the four young Athenians awoke. Lysander once again loved Hermia. Demetrius continued loving Helena. For reasons nobody fully understood, everything had somehow worked out. Soon Duke Theseus and Hippolyta arrived in the forest during a hunting expedition. They discovered the four lovers together. After hearing their story, Theseus overruled Aegis's demands. He announced that Lysander would marry Hermia and Demetrius would marry Helena. The couples returned joyfully to Athens. The wedding celebrations soon began. Theseus married Hippolyta. Hermia married Lysander. Helena married Demetrius. The city rejoiced. As part of the festivities, Bottom and his fellow craftsmen performed their play. Their performance was earnest, clumsy, and unintentionally hilarious. The audience laughed throughout the production, yet the actors remained proud of their achievement. As night fell, the fairy kingdom blessed the newly married couples. Oberon and Titania restored harmony to the forest. Puck addressed the audience directly. He suggested that if anyone disliked the strange events they had witnessed, they should simply imagine the entire adventure had been a dream. And so the tale came to an end. A Midsummer Night's Dream remains beloved because it celebrates imagination, romance, humor, and the delightful chaos that often accompanies love. After all, Shakespeare seemed to understand that people in love frequently behave as though they have been enchanted by magic. In this story, they simply had the courtesy to use actual magic as an excuse.
You've reached the end of tonight's story. Whether you stayed awake to listen or drifted peacefully to sleep, you've spent time surrounding yourself with natural English, rich vocabulary, and timeless storytelling. If you enjoyed this experience, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling us which Shakespeare story you'd like to hear next. New Sleep Learning English stories are uploaded regularly, so you can continue improving your English night after night. Sleep well, dream peacefully, and we'll meet again in the next story. Good night.